crack examination. So do visit AKS IAS Academy and also the website of AKS IAS Academy. About me, I am Sandeep Bhushan Tummala and my credentials are: I have 10 years of teaching experience for civil services. I teach international relations and internal security and the analysis of the Hindu newspaper. And this session will certainly help you to crack prelims and mains examinations, because throughout my session I would be emphasizing on the keywords and the key phrases, and these are crucial because throughout the session the way I would be emphasizing on the keywords and the key phrases will definitely make you get into the mode of identifying the factual, analytical and conceptual questions for the prelims as well as for the answer writing, that is for the mains examination. It will help you in regards to making your answers precise and concise, and once your answers are precise and concise, no doubt you will have a better edge over others and you can score higher marks in the mains examination. So the importance is, or the emphasis would be on the keywords and the key phrases, and certainly this session will help you to have an edge over others, crack prelims and mains. Both it will be useful for 2020 as well as 2021. And today's session is the DNA session, that is daily news analysis of 30th September 2020. And the quote of the day is: success is not final, failure is not fatal, it is the courage to continue that counts. So what is important is you need to have the courage to continue, whether you have success or you have failure. You need to keep on continue, and that courage definitely counts. And before I get into the topic, that is the daily news analysis, I would say a very good morning to one and all, and good morning to everyone who is in the live and also in the live chat. A warm welcome to Suvarna, Karthik, Anil Kumar, Suresh Raman, all of you. A warm welcome to AKS IAS Academy daily news analysis. And the news which is from the Hindu newspaper, it talks about 60 million Indians may have been exposed to virus, and this is as per the ICMR survey. So Indian Council of Medical Research has gone ahead with this survey, that is Sero survey. Sero is part of the liquid from the blood. It is a part of the liquid from the blood, and thereby the ICMR, Indian Council of Medical Research, has gone ahead with the survey with the usage of the Sero, and it has conducted this Sero survey first in the month of May and later on in the month of August. So the first Sero survey was taken up in the month of May and the second in the month of August. And what is been revealed by the second survey or second national Sero survey by the ICMR, that around 7%, this is crucial, 7% of Indian adult population may have been exposed to the COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2 virus, and that has been declared as per until last fortnight, that is the last week of August. So August, up till August, we have in India 7% of the adult population have been exposed to the SARS-CoV-2 or coronavirus, novel coronavirus. So that means 7% means out of the entire population, it is 60 million Indians may have been exposed, and that is as per the report by the ICMR through the National Sero Survey. And when you look at the May, in the month of May, when the first Sero survey was conducted by the ICMR, then across 70 districts and 21 states the survey was conducted. And if you look at the figures in the month of May and the figures in the month of August, in the month of August to May, the difference is the number what it has jumped is 10 times higher. In the month of May, if it is X, it is now 10x. if it is in the month of May, if it is X number, now after the second survey, after the last fortnight of August, that is August month, you have the 10 times increase of the Indians being exposed to the coronavirus. So definitely the virus is spreading. That is very clear. And we need to make sure that we adhere. Each and every individual, that is citizen of India, should take responsibility of adhering or following the guidelines given by the health ministry, so that we need to make sure that we do not be part of spreading the virus, but we should be part of containing the virus. So that we need to break the chain of the SARS-CoV-2, which is spreading across the world and also especially in India. And if you look at the people tested, or generally in the second survey which has been taken up by the ICMR, it is from, they have taken the samples from the people who have been tested previously in the same village and in the same cluster. If you look at the percentage, or percentage is 0.73 percentage of adults, and then that is coming up to 6.4 millions across the country. So it is in the same villages and clusters. The second sero survey has been conducted, and then the infected people are 6.4 millions. And this sero survey has been conducted. And what does this sero survey means? It is conducted by drawing the blood samples. As I said, they take the blood samples, and then out of the blood you have a liquid, and that liquid will be tested for the sero survey. Why they will test? For what they will test? They will check for a specific antibodies. What is a specific antibody called as? Immunoglobulins. Immunoglobulins, this is Ig, small g, immunoglobulins G. So you have three types of antibodies, that is IgG, IgA, IgM, and this is again very important for conceptual understanding about the antibodies which the sero survey is being conducted, and they check for which specific antibodies. And here in this case, in the sero survey, the antibodies which are being specifically tested is IgG, that is immunoglobulins, wherein it will make sure that which will appear within 2 weeks of infection. So if you are infected, within 2 weeks of it, the antibodies will actually be, shot up to fight against the antigen, that is the foreign body, that is the SARS-CoV-2 virus here in this case. And definitely the numbers also suggest that still there are many, or else the entire population or much of the population is yet to be exposed. We need not be complacent. That is what the health ministry has made it very clear couple of days back, that still a lot is to be exposed. Even ICMR director also has made it clear, CCMB also made it very clear that we need to be still vigilant. We need to follow the guidelines, because there is a lot of population yet to be exposed by the SARS-CoV-2 virus, and definitely we are very far away. India is very far away from any peak or herd immunity levels. So we might be thinking that 6 millions or 60 lakh infected cases is high. No, as per the ICMR, Health Ministry and CCMB, it is very clear that we are very far from any peak. That means a high level of point. We haven't still reached the maximum infection in India. We haven't still. That is why still a lot of population is yet to be exposed, and herd immunity levels hasn't still, we haven't experienced. So the worst is yet to come, and that is a fact. And we need to be ready to fight against the SARS-CoV-2 only by making sure that we adhere to the guidelines of the health ministry, that is in regards to the social distancing or physical distancing. And there is lot of risk in the urban slums, and the risk in the urban slums is twice as that of non-slums, and the risk in the urban slums is 4 times. It is twice in regards to the non-slums, but it is 4 times than when you compare it with the rural India. So definitely the urban slums are the one which are being or which will be having the maximum population to be exposed or infected to the SARS-CoV-2 virus. And in the light of the upcoming festivals, winter season and mass gatherings, definitely there is the sense, as said by Health Ministry and then CCMB and ICMR, that we are definitely yet to be exposed. And the reasons why most of the populations, especially in the urban slums and also in various parts of the country, are to be exposed is because of the upcoming festivals, winter season and mass gathering. These are definitely the reasons, and we need to come up with the containment strategies, and these are very important. That is, the containment strategies have to be taken up by the various states to make sure that we reduce the spread of virus, we contain the spread of virus even during the festival seasons, even during the upcoming winter seasons, and any kind of mass gathering because of the unlock, because of the economic activity. And the country-wide prevalence in the sense, the fact or the condition which the virus is spreading is as similar in India, comparing it with the United States, which is 9.3%, and Brazil and Spain. If you look at Brazil, it is 2.8%, Spain it is 4.6%, and India it is 7%. So definitely US is also higher than the India's prevalence of SARS-CoV-2 virus, which is 7% in India. So before I move to the next one, Kumar, Ram Sunil, Madhu, Azmat Khan, a warm welcome to you all to AKS IAS Academy Daily News Analysis. Now we will look at the second one, that is India rejects China's unilateral claim on LAC. So definitely there is the issue which is always progressing, and we are seeing this, or we are experiencing, and we have also gone through the daily news analysis at AKSIS Academy in regards to the LAC or the skirmishes or the face-off between India and China. And we have seen various levels of talks which have been conducted between India and China in regards to settling the border issue, that is along the LAC between India and China. But still there are various issues which are been popping up between India and China diplomatically. And what is that? Now the new one which has actually prompted so that we are focusing on the news is that India is now rejecting China's claim. What claim? They say it is unilateral. So you have unilateral, you have bilateral, you have trilateral, you have multilateral. Please do understand this. You have unilateral, bilateral, trilateral, multilateral. Uni is single, unilateral is single, bi is 2, tri is 3, multi is more or 2 or more. So what does it mean is India is rejecting the Chinese unilateral, that is it has taken on its own, it has taken decision on the border affairs, because border affairs or border agreement or border issues have to be dealt between both the countries, that is India and China. That has to be bilateral. Instead of bilateral, China has gone ahead with unilateral. That is why India has rejected the claim being made by China on the LAC. Now we will look at what is that claim made by China and which India is rejecting, that the claim is an unilateral claim. And India and China have had a exchange sharp statements of blaming each other for continuation of the border tension between India and China. Both of them are trying to blame each other. On September 29, 2020, this has taken place, and then definitely India, New Delhi is claiming the China's claim, that is LAC claim, as untenable, and in turn Beijing is saying that it does not recognize the Union Territory of Ladakh. So now you understand, as I have explained in the past, that what is the main reason for the face of skirmish or the standoff between India and China along the LAC is none other than, as I said, which has been prompted on August 4, 2019, that the Parliament has decided to abrogate Article 370 and 35A, and by this India has gone ahead with making sure that it has brought in the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act, which very clearly has brought two union territories, that is Jammu and Kashmir along with the assembly, two union territory, and the other one is Ladakh. This is union territory without assembly. Fine. So when this action or this Parliament has taken decision to abrogate the Article 370 and 35A and then bifurcate Jammu and Kashmir state into two union territories, that is Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh, and there the issue has started. Then the Chinese officials have made it very clear to India, when there is an issue, when there is a border issue between India and China along the Ladakh or eastern Ladakh, how can India come up with a new political map bifurcating Jammu and Kashmir state into two union territories, that is one Jammu and Kashmir and the other is Ladakh, and then Ladakh definitely it has a border issue between India and China, and then China has raised the concern that India has taken unilateral decision by creating a new union territory by bifurcating Jammu and Kashmir state, that is Ladakh. So that is why it says, now I have just said all this as for the better explanation or better understanding to you all, and now what China is saying is it does not or it did not recognize the union territory of Ladakh. Why? Because it says that India has taken unilateral decision to form Ladakh as the new union territory, and in turn this please do understand, this is very important for international relations which is between India and China, because here we will be talking about 1959. So India has never accepted the unilateral decision or the demarcation of the line of actual control between India and China taken up by China in the year 1959, and it makes it very clear that as the foreign ministry of China has made a statement that the line of actual control which is between India and China, which China considers the November 7th 1959 when it has demarcated, it says it is very clear, but India is making it very clear, or else Ministry of External Affairs is not accepting the November 7th 1959 LAC demarcation. So this is important, the date is important for you for the chronology in regards to the skirmish or the face off, or in regards to the LAC between India and China. And then in the year 1959 a letter was written by the then Chinese premier, that is Zhou Enlai, to the then Prime Minister of India Jawaharlal Nehru, saying that they consider the LAC which they have demarcated in the year 1959. So in the letter which was put forth by Zhou Enlai to Jawaharlal Nehru about the LAC line of actual control, which was not accepted by Jawaharlal Nehru, and subsequently from then onwards India did not accept the demarcation which China has brought in, or Zhou Enlai has written letter to Jawaharlal Nehru in regards to the borders between India and China in the year 1959. So year 1959 is important because from there onwards India is saying we will not unilaterally accept the 1959 line of actual control. This is important. 1959 line of actual control, India is not accepting it, and definitely India is not accepting the 1959 line. And what Ministry of External Affairs or India is making it very clear that when we do not accept the 1959 line of actual control, because there were previous agreements which have been taken up by India and China to resolve the issue in regards to the border affairs between India and China. And what are those? Ministry of External Affairs makes it very clear that previous bilateral border agreements, that is 1993, 1996, 2005. So in 1993 we have gone ahead with agreement on peace, maintenance of peace and tranquility along LAC. 1996 agreement on confidence building measures. 2005 agreement on political parameters and guiding principles. And what Ministry of External Affairs from India makes it very clear that we have come up with, both the countries have come up with these agreements, so that we wanted a commitment for what? Clarification and confirmation. So as there was no clarification and confirmation in regards to the LAC of 1959 with China, Zhou Enlai Premier then has written a letter to Jawaharlal Nehru, the then Prime Minister of India. There is no clarification and there is no confirmation, and only for that we have had the previous agreement 1993, 96, 2005, and then later on again 2013 also. So definitely Ministry of External Affairs is not accepting the 1959 line of actual control. And then it says is very clear that when India has made it very clear, we do not clarify, neither we confirm the 1959 line of actual control, and that was supposed to be discussed between India and China in the year 2003. And then actually China did not really come forward. China did not, there were two sides had engaged in an exercise. Why? To clarify and confirm the line of 1959, or that is LAC of 1959 up to 2003. But China did not move further, and it did not show any willingness to pursue it. That clearly it is a sign, it is showing a signal that China is not ready for change of the status quo post 1962. So this is the line of actual control, which the green one, which is McCartney-Macdonald line of 1899. So this is a green one, which is a line which has been drawn. That line is called as McCartney-Macdonald 1899. And you have Foreign Office line 1873, which is this one. This is 1873, and this is 1859. And this line, McCartney-Macdonald line, was accepted by China until 1959. Please do understand, this is a very important information which I am providing, because LAC 1959 India is not accepting it. Fine. What we wanted is the McCartney-Macdonald line, which was drawn in the year 1899 and which was informally accepted by China until 1959. But post 1959, when a letter was written by Zhou Enlai, then Premier of China, to Jawaharlal Nehru, that they are not accepting the line of McCartney-Macdonald line of 1899. And then later on you have this line, which is line connecting post established by China in 1959, and then here these are the line connecting the post. Fine. And then blue line is a line separating India and China's forces as on 7 September 1962. This is after the India-China war 1962. So definitely the blue line, this is the 1962 one, blue line. And then later on, after the war, China has claimed the line of 1960, which it has reached till here. So this is the one post 1962, which it says that it is further to the line of actual control of 1962. So this line of actual control right from 1899, that is which is made it very clear that McCartney McDonald line. So this is very important for preliminary examination. On that, after that, that is China is not now accepting the LAC 1959. So this is the dynamic part. This is the dynamic part of international relations which you need to focus, and the main focus is you need to have is 1959 line of actual control. 1959 line of actual control, wherein India is not accepting it, because we definitely wanted to clarify and confirm. For that we have, or we had 1993 agreement, 1996, 2005 agreements. Kalyan Chakravarti has joined. A warm welcome to Kalyan Chakravarti also to AKSIS Academy Daily News Analysis. And there is another news which talks about Amnesty halts India operation. So Amnesty is definitely it is an organization which is a global human rights agency. Amnesty International. Amnesty International is a global human rights agency, and you have another agency which is situated in India, and that is called as Amnesty International India. And this Amnesty International India, just a minute, extremely sorry, Amnesty International India has said that the government of India has frozen all the bank accounts of Amnesty International in India and thereby it is unable to go ahead with any kind of staffing in India, and it is definitely in the mode of pausing or stopping any ongoing campaign and research work in India. So the keyword here is Amnesty International India. And if you look at Amnesty International, it is a global human rights agency. Human rights. So this is in regards to the human rights. So this is again very important keyword for prelims as well as mains examinations. So now we will look at what is the claim made by Amnesty International India. It says that definitely there is lot of harassment which is by the government agencies such as Enforcement Directorate onto the Amnesty International India. Why there is harassment by the government agencies like Enforcement Directorate on the Amnesty International India? Because what Amnesty International India says or claims is that as they go ahead with unequivocal calls, that means they are wanting or they are raising the voice for transparency in the government. They're raising the voice for accountability of the Delhi police, accountability of the government of India in regards to the human rights violation in Delhi rights and Jammu and Kashmir. So now you understood what Amnesty International is claiming, that Amnesty International India is raising their voice, which is unequivocal calls, which it is making for what? For transparency to be in the government and to have accountability in the Delhi police and accountability in the government of India. And that is the accountability what it talks about is in regards to the human rights violations which have been witnessed in the Delhi rights and in the Jammu and Kashmir area after abrogation of Article 370 and 35A. So what is important here is the human rights or global human rights agency, which is Amnesty International, and regionally you have one in India that is called as Amnesty International India. And the government, what they say is government is now portraying all this, the funds which the Amnesty International India is getting. The government of India says that all that funds coming into Amnesty International India is unlawful fundraising model, and they say that as a money laundering. That is why Enforcement Directorate is certainly trying to find out the ways how the money has come into Amnesty International India and for what purpose they are actually using the money. Is it to make sure that they are funding the money so that lot of hartals or agitation takes place? So that they say that it is as per the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act 2010. They are focusing that it is unlawful fundraising model, and they say that it is maliciously activated whenever the human rights activists and groups, various groups, challenge the government's grave inaction and excesses. So whenever government is taking up an action which is violating human rights, violating the freedom of speech, violating the freedom of expression, so in that regards, when the Amnesty International India is raising the voice, the government of India is maliciously trying to suppress them, is the claim made by Amnesty International India. And Amnesty added that it had complied. So Amnesty is making it very clear that it is following the rules and regulations which are part of international and Indian laws. They say that they are not part of any kind of money laundering. They are making it very clear they haven't been part of money laundering because they have complied or they are maintained the rules and regulations as per the international and Indian laws. And definitely they say that the funds which they have got now are being raised domestically. It is not the foreign funds which are getting into India. It is not at all foreign funds, but it is the funds which have been raised domestically. And they say this contribution evidently cannot have any relation to the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act 2010 because those funds are raised domestically. As they are raised domestically, these funds cannot have any kind of relations, or else the Government of India or else the Enforcement Directorate or the Home Ministry cannot suppress or cannot make sure that these funds are part of the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act 2010. And definitely the Amnesty International, which the government's investigation into Amnesty International India, the European Union is also concerned about it. European Union is also concerned about it, and it says that Global Human Rights Agency, that is Amnesty International, can continue to work in India provided the entire issue is settled between India, Amnesty International India and the Government of India. And there is another news which talks about Malabar exercise meeting to discuss Australia's entry. So you have Quad, as we have discussed earlier. So Quad comprises India, USA, and then Japan and Australia. So at the same time you have Malabar exercise or military exercise, and it constitutes India, USA and Japan. Here you do not have Australia. So what is the mechanism being worked out is that the Australia's entry into Malabar exercise. No doubt India was not keen earlier. India was not keen in joining Australia to be part of the Malabar exercise because of the China. Because India did have a friendly relations since almost many years, and if you look at the face off which has started between India and China along the LAC in the month of May, and we have seen in the past also 2017 we have seen the Doklam issue. But apart from these two issues, recent past, India was not really happy in accommodating Australia to be part of the Malabar exercise because of China's concern. But now the defense source have made it very clear that there would be a discussion on October 6th in Tokyo, that is on the sidelines of the Quad foreign ministers meeting which will be taken up in Tokyo, and India will definitely have a discussion in regards to the decision whether it will accommodate or allow Australia to be the part of the Malabar trilateral exercise. So now it is trilateral. It is three countries together we have the Malabar trilateral exercise. So the discussion will be discussed, or the decision will be discussed in the Quad Foreign Ministers meeting, which will be taken up on October 6th in Tokyo. And then this year's 2020 edition of trilateral Malabar exercise between India, Japan and US is scheduled to be taken up in the month of mid-November. So you have hardly October and November. So you definitely, it's just 1 month to go ahead, or one and a half a month. So there are discussions to make sure that whether in the 2020 Malabar exercise edition would Australia be part of the, or join the Malabar exercise, is the question mark, and that would be discussed on October 6th on the sidelines of Quad Foreign Ministers meeting in Tokyo. And as well as that, India and US will also, or definitely they are in the midst of holding a schedule to go ahead with the next round of 2+2 ministerial dialogue. So what is this 2+2? That is 2 ministers from India, 2 ministers from USA. From India 2 ministers, and from USA 2 ministers. So it is in regards to the external affairs plus defense here in this case. External affairs plus defense. So they would have discussion, and then they would decide that next 2+2 ministerial dialogue, which will also certainly take up in the month of November. And the Defense Ministry has made it very clear on September 26th that they have discussed in regards to the issue whether they can invite Australia for Malabar exercise. And if you look at the news which has come up in the Hindu newspaper on June 3rd, India was very reluctant. On June 3rd, India was reluctant to accommodate or invite Australia for the Malabar exercise because due to Beijing's sensitivities, India said it was now open to Australia's inclusion. That means as Beijing is now trying to create problems to India along the LAC and also supporting Pakistan virtually, and then creating lot of disturbances with the Indian neighbors, so that those disturbances would be again being part of the national security or internal security to India. So definitely after June 3rd, we have made it very clear that now we are open, that is India is open for Australia's inclusion in the Malabar exercise. So this is the warships, the military wherein the exercise do take place between the, that is Malabar trilateral exercise. So this Malabar exercise Quad are very useful and important and critical information for UPSC preliminary and mains examination point of view. Venu have also joined. A warm welcome to Venu. And the Supreme Court is asking the Jammu and Kashmir administration that how long you will detain Mehbooba Mufti, the former Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir state. How long will Mehbooba Mufti be detained is been asked by the Supreme Court. So Supreme Court has asked the Jammu and Kashmir administration that how long they intend to detain former Chief Minister Mehbooba Mufti under Public Safety Act, PSA Act. So this is the key word, PSA Act, wherein it gives a tremendous powers to the Jammu and Kashmir administration or to the police to detain a person without intimating, without warrant, and then how long also is a big question mark. And they can go ahead with bind over cases also. So the Supreme Court is now asking the Jammu and Kashmir administration to clarify to it how long it would wish to intend to detain Mehbooba Mufti under Public Safety Act. And the Supreme Court is also asking the Jammu and Kashmir administration that the administration should address on two issues. What is the two issues? That what is the maximum period for which a person can be detained under Public Safety Act, and how long does the Jammu and Kashmir administration proposes to continue the detention of Mehbooba Mufti, is being asked by the Justice, that is Sanjay Kishan Kaul, who is heading the bench in the Supreme Court. It has asked to address and give clarification to the government, that is Jammu and Kashmir administration, who is representing the case in the Supreme Court on behalf of Jammu and Kashmir administration is Solicitor General Tushar Mehta. So Supreme Court wanted Jammu and Kashmir administration to address on two issues. What is the maximum period of a person who can be detained, and what is the proposal of the Jammu and Kashmir administration, that how long do you propose to continue the detention. So these are the two keywords wherein you can use it in your short notes as per the Public Safety Act. And the court says that now this has been listed for the case next hearing as on October 15th. And the court has, why did the court take up this now? Because the court has taken this because of a petition filed by Mehbooba Mufti's daughter, that is Iltija, wherein she has filed a writ petition, that is habeas corpus. So again, these are all very important for polity point of view, that is writs. So you have 5 writs which I have explained in my previous daily news analysis. So do follow that 5 writs, and one amongst them now Iltija has filed is habeas corpus, and which is represented by advocates Nitya Ramakrishnan and S. Prasanna on behalf of Mehbooba Mufti's daughter Iltija on filing the petition in regards to the habeas corpus. So writs are very, very crucial information for preliminary examination. And Ravi Babu, a warm welcome to you to AKS IAS Academy Daily News Analysis. And an affidavit in response to, an affidavit was filed on September 28th, that is the Srinagar District Magistrate has made it very clear for what reason Mehbooba Mufti detention is based on. Please do understand. An affidavit has been dated back to September 20th. The Srinagar District Magistrate has put forth the reasons for why the detention is being continued on Mehbooba Mufti. They say because of an extensive scrutiny of the material on Miss Mufti, which showed, that means the result of the scrutiny of various materials which have shown that there is a past conduct. What conduct it is? That she was glorifying militants. This is as per the Srinagar District Magistrate. Please do understand. This is as per the Srinagar District Magistrate says that Mehbooba Mufti has a past conduct of glorifying militants, and Miss Mufti brazenly has incited religion to divide the people. So as per the District Magistrate of Srinagar says that she has been inciting religion to divide the people in Jammu and Kashmir, and she has also demoralized the security forces. And the proclivity in the sense inclination or tendency, the inclination or tendency to indulge in such behavior in future would have highly prejudicial to the maintenance of public order. So they feel that this kind of behavior which was being passed, that is the past conduct of Miss Mufti can be taken into consideration that behavior in the future which would be highly prejudicial to the maintenance of public order. So this is the keyword, maintenance of public order. So in regards to maintaining the public order, the district magistrate, that is Srinagar district magistrate, has put forth the reasons why still Mehbooba Mufti is under house arrest, detained as per Public Safety Act. As per Public Safety Act. So this is a keyword, Public Safety Act, and then habeas corpus, and then in regards to the maintenance of public order. Maintenance of public order. That is why you have Public Safety Act. Public Safety Act. So now we will recapitulate the Daily News analysis. So this is in regards to the ICMA survey, that is Sero survey which has been conducted. This is again important for SNT, that how best we need to make sure that we need not be complacent, but we need to be vigilant, making sure that there is yet the worst to take up or to come. And this is in regards to the international relations. Again, it is in regards to the IR point of view, which is dynamic current affairs. And this again in regards to the NGOs or any civil society organizations, which is again pertaining to human rights. So this again which is useful, we can focus from FCRA 2010, Foreign Contribution Regulation Act 2010. So all these were current affairs. It could be in regards to the internal security also, as per the internal security, that is GS paper 3. And Malabar exercise, again this is in regards to the national security. We can take it from prelims point of view, and also in regards to the Quad, and then in regards to the Malabar exercise, Quad and Malabar exercise, Malabar trilateral exercise between India, Australia and USA and Japan in the future, if India invites Australia to be part of Malabar exercise, or else Quad it is definitely India, US and then Australia and then Japan. But Malabar, it is India, US and Japan. And then in regards to this is we need to focus on Public Safety Act, and then habeas corpus you need to focus. Again this is in regards to the internal security. So we have focused this from prelims as well as mains examinations. So I hope this session was certainly an helpful, informative and knowledgeable session for you all, so that you will certainly have an edge over others in regards to prelims as well as mains. And this session of AKS IAS Academy Daily News Analysis will definitely make you comfortable for prelims as well as mains examinations. So I would say a very big thank you and a good luck to you all. And then please do like the video, share the video and subscribe the video, that is in regards to the AKS IAS Academy, and also do visit the website of AKS IAS Academy, and then do subscribe the Telegram link of AKS IAS Academy. And then see you again tomorrow at 7:30 AM in regards to the daily news analysis. And then what I would wish you all is to follow the consistency in regards to your preparation. Do stick to your schedule, and then do take care of your physical health and mental health. Physical health and mental health. And certainly I'll come up with the important, informative and knowledgeable daily news analysis of AKS IAS Academy tomorrow 7:30 AM. Thank you very much. And Manu Manohar has also joined. A warm welcome to Manu Manohar to AKS IAS Academy also. Thank you very much.